Shalom, 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 shalom. Early morning, early bird catch the worm. As always, so lucky. I want to give all the praises and the glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash, double honors to the apostles and to the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect brothers and sisters of the house of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, aka the Hebrew Israelite elect. Shalom, shalom, shalom. For those of you that have truly woke up to the truth of the scriptures, the end days prophecies that we are living in, and the second coming of our Lord Yahawah, Shem Yahawashi. Yahawah is the name of the Most High. Yahawashi is the name of the Son. Shalom, 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 which just means peace be unto you. So, I want you to listen to this speech by the Russian ambassador to the United Nations that he made yesterday when they came out of the United Nations security meeting regarding the war in Israel between the Palestinians and the Israelis, between the Edomites and the Ishmaelites. I want you to listen to what he has to say. All right, listen carefully to what the Russian ambassador says. When we tell you Bible prophecy makes, and Lord willing, I'm going to be out there on the highways and hedges later on today. In a few hours, I'm going to be out there. Do what we do best. We're going to be preaching and prophesying, like the scripture says, right? The spirit of Yahawashi. Prophecy is the spirit of Yahawashi. The preaching, the spirit of Yahawashi is the testimony of Yahawashi is the preaching of prophecy. I'm just paraphrasing it, right? Lord willing, I'm going to be out there in a few hours on the highways and hedges once again to prophesy the word as we've been doing. We've been telling you about Russia, where Russia stands, where Russia's going to be, where they're going to play, and I'm going to speak a lot more on this later on today, but I'm going to give you a little bit of what I'm going to be speaking on, but I want you to hear what the Russian ambassador had to say. So without further ado, listen carefully to what he says.
So, thank you. The escalation of the situation on the ground is extremely worrying and appalling. The region is on the brink of a full-scale war and unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe. We unequivocally condemn the acts of extreme brutality, killings, and the horrifying scale of violence. Any killings and violence against peaceful civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian citizens, is inadmissible. What happened on October 7 on Israeli territory is unacceptable. Israel, by all means, has the right to protect its own citizens. We also reiterate the right of Israel to ensure its security. However, there are two inseparable dimensions of the unfolding tragedy, and we can't highlight one and ignore the other. Indiscriminate shellings of residential areas in Gaza, cutting this territory from water and electricity. Its blockade, which brings to our minds in particular the memories of the siege of Leningrad during the Second World War, are also unacceptable.
For those of you that know what the siege on Leningrad was in the Second World War, when he says here, I'm gonna let it play.
Of the siege of Leningrad
the siege of Leningrad, that was the Germans that did the siege on Leningrad, where I believe they 1 million or 2 million, 1 million Russians died in defending Leningrad against the Germans. And if the Russians didn't defend Leningrad in the Second World War against the Nazis, these demonic, satanic, wicked Edomites in the West, these Europeans, would have lost the war. That was the ultimate battle that needed to be won for these Europeans to win. So this is why this is why he's bringing all of this out. But I want you to listen to what he says. So lucky for stopping it. It's very interesting what he says.
Second World War are also unacceptable. There are human lives that matter most. Israel's actions of collective punishment of Gaza citizens, as well as its demands to evacuate more than 1 million civilians in 24 hours and concentrate them in a de facto ghetto in the south of the sector, are also unacceptable and can lead to irreversible catastrophic consequences regionally and globally.
And we know that's what it's going to lead to. We know everything that's happened is going to lead to irreversible, catastrophic consequences regionally and globally. Because whether you believe it or not, this truly has to be the spark that's going to bring us eventually into the war of Armageddon. All right, so it will do. It's going to lead us there. Whereas, anyway, let's go on, because I'm going to talk about this today anyway. Sorry.
The root causes of this situation are of critical importance. Our Western colleagues...
And that's another thing. The root causes of the situation, right, are important. The Western white supremacists of media are ignoring the root causes of what's going on in that land. We know it's all Bible prophecy. We understand deeper why it's happening. But on the face of it, the root causes of that situation, the white supremacist Western media is totally ignoring. And this is what he's going to pick up on. Listen carefully.
The root causes of this situation are of critical importance. Our Western colleagues do their best to promote the narrative that the current escalation happens out of the blue because a band of savage terrorists attacked Israeli civilians.
You see? And he's absolutely right. This is how they're painting it. This is how the West is painting it. All right? This is how the West is painting it. The current escalation happened out of the blue. Like there's no history in what's going on. But this is how the devil works. This is how Satan works. So he's pointing it out. He's mapping it all out for you to understand that these Edomites, these so-called white people in the Western world, are the devil that the Bible speaks of. And he's making it quite clear to you that these devils with their hypocrisy are lying blatantly by trying to make it sound like this just happened out of the blue. They just got up one morning and thought, let's go over the border and we're going to massacre all of these Israelis, right? These Edomites. No. But listen, he's going to map it out for you. Sorry for keep stopping it, right? Because the speech was very powerful that he made.
Because a band of savage terrorists attacked Israeli civilians. The US is especially insistent that the whole situation was unprovoked and Hamas are outcasts enjoying no support. If it were so, there would be no protests in the West Bank against Israel's actions and no widespread Arab and Muslim support for Palestine. We shouldn't ignore that the current flare-up of violence happens against the background of Israel's systematic violations of the decisions of the UN Security Council.
Absolutely. But you see how he's calling out Babylon the Great. Let me just play that bit back again to you, all right? He's calling out Babylon the Great, all right? Calling out Babylon the Great, because ultimately this is who they're going to go up against, the Russians, because they're going to get involved in this, right? Everyone's going to get involved, but listen to what he says.
Irreversible, catastrophic consequences, regionally and globally. The root causes of this situation are of critical importance. Our Western colleagues do their best to promote the narrative that the current escalation happens out of the blue because a band of savage terrorists attacked Israeli civilians. The US is especially insistent that the whole situation was unprovoked and Hamas are outcasts enjoying no support.
And this is what they're trying to promote, right? Where it's the complete opposite. And I've said this before. If those Arab leaders don't come to the defense of Palestine, the people will turn over their governments and they will come. And they know that's going to happen. They're going to have to make a choice. Those weak Arab leaders in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, right? Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, Abu Dhabi, right? Dubai, right? There's weak Arab leaders in those. The only countries that are outspokenly backing them are Turkey, Syria, Iran, Yemen. The rest of them, that have got massive armies, they're sitting there on the fence, right? Trying to play some sort of media, watching their brothers get annihilated. But the people are supporting them. And they know that's a danger to their rulership. Let's continue.
Was unprovoked and Hamas are outcasts enjoying no support. If it were so, there would be no protests in the West Bank against Israel's actions and no widespread Arab and Muslim support for Palestine. We shouldn't ignore that the current flare-up of violence happens against the background of Israel's systematic violations of the decisions of the UN Security Council and the General Assembly, including the illegal expansion of settlements, which is regularly condemned by the vast majority of UN member states. We are all appalled by the fact that the Palestinians are being forcefully ousted from their land and their houses demolished. Any attempt to ignore this context is a clear manipulation of facts, which we cannot support.
And that's what the Western media is doing. It's a clear manipulation of the facts, what's going on and what has been going on in the land of Israel, Palestine, since 1948, since these Eastern European Edomites came into the land. It's been a manipulation of the facts, because these devils, these small hats control the media in the West, and everything that you see and hear from their Western media. It's a white supremacist institution that's pushing the Israelis as victims and the Palestinians as animals and savages. So you see, I'm going to speak a lot on this later today. So let me save it. Anyway.
Clear the responsibility for the looming war in the Middle East, to a large extent, lies on the United States. It is Washington that recklessly and selfishly blocked the work of the Middle East Quartet of international media.
Let's rewind that. What he says. Listen again.
Houses demolished. Any attempt to ignore this context is a clear manipulation of facts, which we cannot support. Let me be clear, the responsibility for the looming war in the Middle East, to a large extent, lies on the United States. It is Washington.
With Babylon the Great, the United States. The wars, the destabilization of the Middle East and the world lies with Babylon the Great. This is why the Most High is going to destroy that place. This is why the Russians are going to play a major part in the destruction of Babylon the Great, the United States of America, because they are the greatest destabilizer of the whole world. They're the greatest polluters and the greatest destabilizers. The most corrupt country and the most murderous country is Babylon the Great. This is what he's saying. The responsibility for the looming war, right, in the Middle East, to a large extent, lies on the United States. It is Washington. This is what he says. Ignore the context is a clear manipulation. They want to ignore the context, just like what they do when we're teaching the scriptures, all right? These Christians, they want to ignore the context. They think they understand Bible prophecy. They think they understand. They don't understand shit. They don't even know what's going on. Right now, those Christians are running around, scrambling, wondering what's going on. The same thing when Russia invaded Ukraine. They're wondering what's going on. They have no idea who Russia is in the Bible, the Christians. They have no idea why these speeches are so important for us to hear, because it reaffirms the facts when we are teaching and prophesying the position that Russia is going to play in end time prophecies, in leading these Arab nations in a war against America, NATO, and Israel. They have no idea why these speeches are so important. But those of us in the truth understand. The Lord is putting the Spirit on them to make the right statements, to speak, because eventually they are going to lead. Anyway, I'm going to speak about this later today, so let me save it.
Of facts, which we cannot support. Let me be clear, the responsibility for the looming war in the Middle East, to a large extent, lies on the United States. It is Washington that recklessly and selfishly blocked the work of the Middle East Quartet of international mediators in an effort to monopolize the peace process and limit it to imposing an economic peace with Israel on the Palestinians and other Arab countries without solving the Palestinian question. We consistently warned against this, saying it will backfire one day. So it did. You all know well that for years the US blocked any reaction, any signal from the UN Security Council, any modest call for exercising restraint, claiming that its quiet regional diplomacy is more effective. Well, now it is obvious that it has failed.
Absolutely. Because the Lord is getting ready. It's absolutely failed. It was never going to succeed, because the war of all wars, this is where it starts. So it could never have succeeded. But he's speaking 100% on point. Let's listen up.
In the current circumstances, Russia cannot accept the complete inaction and lack of any reaction on the part of the UN Security Council.
You understand? They cannot accept. Listen to what he says. He says, in the current circumstances, Russia cannot accept the complete and any inaction on the part of the United Nations and Security Council. They can't accept it, because eventually, like I said, Russia is the country that's going to lead those Arab nations alongside its ally China in this war. Let me go back. Listen to what he says again.
It is obvious that it has failed. In the current circumstances, Russia cannot accept the complete inaction and lack of any reaction on the part of the UN Security Council, as well as the UN Secretariat. As you could have noticed, not a single Western delegation called for an open meeting on the situation in the Middle East.
Hear that? Not a single Western delegation. He says it there, look.
Not a single Western delegation called.
Not a single Western delegation called
an open meeting on the situation in the Middle East.
Because they're all for the Western white supremacists, Western world are all for the Israelis, because ultimately this is a race war that's going on. This ain't even a war about Islam against Judaism. This is a race war. This is people of color against Edomites, against the people that are different shades of red, Esau. This is Ishmael against Esau. This is a race war. This ain't a war about Judaism and Islam. This is a race war. Like I said, I got to speak about this later anyway.
They use every fake pretext to call for the discussions of the situation in Ukraine for obvious political reasons.
That's right. Let me go back what he says. Listen to what he says again.
And lack of any reaction on the part of the UN Security Council, as well as the UN Secretariat. As you could have noticed, not a single Western delegation called for an open meeting on the situation in the Middle East, while they use every fake pretext to call for the discussions of the situation in Ukraine for obvious political reasons. They are insisting to hold 3 monthly meetings on Syria to show that the Council is allegedly still preoccupied with this issue and to attack Syrian government, but they don't find courage to call for a meeting on the situation, which is directly affecting international peace and security and has dire, immense humanitarian consequences. Against this background, our former Western partners are not hesitating to apply blatant double standards. The head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, openly declares that the EU stands with Israel, while turning a blind eye to the Israeli Air Force attacks on civilian infrastructure in the Gaza Strip. When Ms. von der Leyen commented on the situation around Mariupol in the past, which was not in any way similar to the one in Gaza, she said that, I quote, attacks against civilian infrastructure, especially electricity, are war crimes, and cutting off men, women, children of water and electricity are acts of pure terror, end of quote. There are more examples of the same double standards and irresponsible behavior of other Western politicians.
Absolutely. Because when the Russians were bombing buildings in Ukraine, they were saying, oh, they're terrorists, they're war crimes, they're killing the civilian population, they're doing this, they're doing that. It was all coming out, all the Western media was jumping on the bandwagon of the war crime. It was all jumping on the war crime bandwagons. The Israelis are carpet bombing Gaza, and not one of these Edomite devils in the West is calling it war crimes, telling them to stop, or speaking against it. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to be speaking on this later.
So what do we propose for the Council? We call for an immediate ceasefire and the prevention of further escalation of the conflict. We are convinced that the Security Council must act to put an end to the bloodshed and restart peace negotiations with a view to establishing a Palestinian state as it was supposed to do so long ago. To this end, we are circulating a draft resolution of the UN Security Council, which calls for an immediate, durable, and fully respected humanitarian ceasefire and for an unimpeded provision of humanitarian assistance, as well as condemns all violence and all acts of terrorism. This draft is open for co-sponsorship of all UN member states. Today, I have to advise you, there was a meeting of the Commonwealth of Independent States Foreign Ministers in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, where they adopted a joint statement in that vein. It was circulated as a document of the Security Council. We call on all the members of the international community to actively support, co-sponsor, and line up behind our draft. This is the only way to stop violence. As far as Russia is concerned, for us it is important to maintain contacts with the two sides. We have long established historical ties with Palestine as well as with Israel. A large number of our compatriots live both in Israel and Palestine. And this is also a very important factor that we have to take into account. At the same time, we have very solid, well-established close relations with the Arab world, first of all with Palestine, which had been promised and mandated by the UN decisions, a sovereign statehood with the capital in East Jerusalem. These decisions have been taken by the UN Security Council and General Assembly, and they must be implemented. We stand ready for the mediation and we have capacities for it, provided both sides are interested in it. I thank you.
When do you expect to take?
I'm going to bring out one scripture. I'm going to shut this down because I'm going to talk about this in more depth later. I just thought I'd give you a little wake-up call. Quite early here in the UK. Isaiah 32. Isaiah 32, right? Isaiah 33. Yeah, Isaiah 32. Right, and I actually want to bring this. I'm going to go to the NLT and read this, right? Because I've seen it in the NLT, and we're going to start here. I'm just going to read this one precept, and then we're going to shut it down. Isaiah 32, verse 5. Right, this is from the NLT. All right. In that day, ungodly fools will not be heroes. All right, but this is what they are. They think they're the heroes, these devils, but they're not. These are the ungodly fools. Scoundrels will not be respected. All right. In the KJV, just so you can see, it's where it talks about the vile person shall no more be called liberal, nor the churl said to be bountiful. All right. This is the KJV, but I'm just reading it from the NLT. Verse 6, it says, for fools speak foolishness and make evil plans. Right. This is these Edomites, America, NATO, the Europeans, Israel. Right. They got evil plans, the elites, the globalists. Right. They practice ungodliness and spread false teachings about the Lord. This is why they're trying to tell you that these people are the people of the Lord. They're spreading false teaching. They're telling you that the Lord is a so-called white man. This is what these Western Europeans have been doing, these Edomites, since the Renaissance, right? They deprive the hungry of food. This is what they're doing in Palestine right now, and give no water to the thirsty. This is what the Israelis are doing, these Edomites, these are doing right now in Palestine. They're depriving the hungry of food and they're giving no water to the thirsty, right? The smooth tricks of scoundrels are evil, right? Their tricks are what they're using on their media by trying to paint the Israelis as victims and the Palestinians as the attackers, right? As you know, as animals, literally, right? These are the smooth tricks of the scoundrels are evil. This is what the Western white supremacist media is doing. They plot crooked schemes. Exactly what they're doing. They lie to convict the poor. This is what they're doing. The Western media is pure propaganda and lying to convict the poor. The poor of the Palestinians are living in abject poverty. Right? And remember, we ain't got no dog in this fight because we know neither of them should be in the land. And we know ultimately that land is going to be destroyed by nuclear fire and the chariots of the Lord. So it might be a blessing that they move the Palestinians out and just leave them in there, because in a funny sort of way, as hard as it may be for them that they're going to have to leave that place, all right, they don't want to be there to be destroyed. And the only ones that will be saved out of that land are those that are part of the elect of the children of Israel, all right? Because there will be some elect of the children of Israel, the Israelites, that are in the land on both sides. There will be, just so you understand. But it may be a blessing in disguise that they be moved out that land, because that land is prophesied to be destroyed. They lie to convict the poor. This is what the Western media is doing. Even when the cause of the poor is just. We know that their fight against these devils that are being oppressing them is just. Ultimately, they're all going to be removed from the land. But while they are living there, they have a just cause for the oppression, and it's a racist oppression that they are receiving. Right? And this is why they are going to go down. But generous people plan to do what is generous, and they stand firm in their generosity. So these people are going to go down. Ultimately, they're going to go down. These Israelis, it's going to go down, basically, because just like the scripture says in Jeremiah 49, is it 49 and 20? We're going to finish it there. The least of the plots never bring them out. Jeremiah 49 and 20. Listen to the Lord's plan against Edom. against these Edomites, all right? And Edom is talking about Babylon the Great. As a nation, the Edomites are these so-called Caucasians calling themselves Israelis and Europeans. And the people of Teman, even the little children will be dragged off like sheep, and their homes will be destroyed. They're going to be destroyed, both of them. The earth will shake with the noise of Edom's fall, of Babylon's fall, America's fall. And its cry of despair will be heard all the way to where? To the Red Sea. Where are they trying to defend? They're trying to defend the Red Sea. They're trying to defend. This is where the war is. But it's going to go all the way to Babylon, Edom. That's where it's going to go. It says, look, the enemy swoops down like an eagle, spreading his wings over Bozrah. Even the mightiest warriors will be in anguish like a woman in labor, in pang. And if we read it in the KJV, it makes it quite clear. It says, therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord that he has taken against Edom, against America, and his purposes that he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Teman are the wise men, like the smartest men in America. They what we refer to as the Germans, right? Surely the least of the flock, which is Israel, shall draw them out. Draw out who? Babylon the Great, Edom, the Americans, which is what we are seeing clearly, right? But like I said, we can't get to the war of nukes, where they go to nukes, until the microchip goes global. So it says, surely the least of the flock, which is Israel, shall draw them out. Iran is the other side of that coin for the least of the flock. Surely he shall make their habitation, America's habitation, desolate with them, because America and Israel will be destroyed together. So I'm going to leave it there. Can't all take place until the microchip goes global, but I just wanted you to hear what the Russian ambassador had to say. So I'm going to give all the praises and the glory to Yahawah, Ba'ashem, Yahawashi, Ba'ashem, Qadash. This is a little, what they call it, like an intro to what I'm going to be speaking on later today on the highways and hedges, Lord willing. Today is Saturday, the 14th of October, 2023. So, Lord willing, I'll see you in a few hours. All right. Look out for the live broadcast that's going to be coming from the highways and hedges in a few hours, in probably about 4 hours' time. All right. Set your clocks. I'll see you later, family. Shalom.